Hello, and thank you for joining us for this Education Transformation 2020 presentation, Integrity and Online Testing. My name is Alex Wunderlich, and I'm on the sales team here at Hawks Learning. Our speaker today is Dr. Chalam Narayanan. Dr. Chala Narayanan is an associate professor of analytics in the Department of Information Technology and Decision Sciences at the University of North Texas. He earned his doctorate in operations management and MS in industrial engineering from Texas A&M University. He also earned a BE in mechanical engineering from the College of Engineering, Gundi, India. Prior to his appointment at North Texas, he was a faculty member in the Industrial Distribution Program in College of Engineering at Texas A&M University, tenured in 2012, and a faculty member in the Bauer College of Business at University of Houston. His dissertation was recognized by DSI and CSC MP in 2007 and has been published in journals including POMS, JOM, DSJ, EJOR, Omega, IJPE, IJPR, among others. We are so excited that Dr. Narayanan is here to share his expertise with us here today. We will have a live Q&A session with Dr. Narayanan, so please enter any and all questions that you do have into the Q&A section as we are moving along through the presentation, and we'll get to as many of these as possible at the end of the presentation. This webinar is also going to be recorded, and the recording will be sent out to all attendees once the video has been processed and ready for distribution. Now I will hand it over to our presenter. The floor is yours, Dr. Narayanan.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you all for joining today. I see quite a few attendees over here, and let me share the screen. And if you have any, if you hear any disturbance, that's because my 3-year-old is sitting right next to my lap. Yeah, that's why I have the background over here. And hopefully, I know Alex introduced me as an expert. I wouldn't dabble myself as an expert. I've been in the field for about 19 years now. And about 13 years in teaching, online teaching for close to about 10 years. I've done different versions of it. I just wanted to share some of my experiences and what goes on. And this is a platform where I want to share my experience and also learn from you all if you have anything to share over the course of the presentation. And this is not just specific to Hawks Learning. I'm going to share things that are outside Hawks Learning too. So let me go ahead and talk about a little bit. So first of all, academic integrity. I'm from, like Alex said, I graduated from A&M and been in A&M for a while. So our school motto, academic honesty and all were pretty important, and always we all got trained by that. But sometimes it falls on deaf ears because people have different opinion on what goes on in the university and whether they actually treat academic dishonesty, especially cheatings in exams, as serious as they should be. So initially I just wanted to set the stage up to show you what is going on. And these are some literature. You can question them, but these are documented evidence. For example, David says a lot of people cheat a little, and there is also a few people who cheat a lot. I'm more interested in the second half. There is also a few people who cheat a lot. That is the one that we need to make sure that we control. We may have a lot of people cheating a little, but that we cannot avoid. Like if they cheat 1 or 2 questions, that's okay. But at the end, if there's egregious violations, that's kind of where we want to step our foot and show what's going on. And we have to be proactive about it. There is a lot of talk about, whether online if you go to online classes, there's a lot more cheating than in campus classes. There's been quite a bit of research that says that's not true. And it might have changed since COVID-19, but before COVID-19, the online classes were typically taken by people who are fairly older. And if they are older, they tend to take these courses much more seriously than the younger folks. And so they tend not to cheat a lot. And that is there are several documented research about that. But this is changed because of what happened in COVID-19, because we have a lot more undergraduate courses that have gone online or forced to be online. And so we have to be aware of how to make, how to be proactive in controlling these things. So there are a lot of tools there, but every tool has its limitations. And for example, I teach a course that involves a lot of statistical tools. I mean, since it's Hawks Learning, may have some need where they have to go to use Excel, or they have to use tab, or any of the other software, using tools that are very famous like the Respondus lockdown and stuff like that, you are locked to a browser and whatever feature that's available. They cannot come out of the feature to use other software. So you have to design your exam to be narrow-minded, or you can use that platform itself and you allow open access so that other softwares can be used. So you have to handle that situation very carefully. And obviously towards the presentation, I'll share some of the things that we have done during the course. Um, okay, so COVID impact. This is something that happened in our college. What we have seen is there's been a 77% increase. There is a 77% increase in the reported violation since the COVID lockdown. And surprisingly, it's not like the junior students are the ones, it's mostly the senior students who are there. That tells you something, that we have not been clamping down on this as much as we would love to, but the numbers still represent 1 or 2% of the population. I'm not saying you have to suspect 100% of the students. It's just the 1 or 2%, and you want to make sure that you have ways of controlling that. Okay, so and you have to understand that the academic integrity is not a behavioral violation. It's actually an academic violation, because there's a lot of talk that says, yes, there are people who come from certain countries. They don't think this to be a violation. They think it's a norm and they go with it. There is truth to it, but at the same time, you cannot draw a broad brushstroke against that. There are still instances, because of the social media, there's a lot more things going on, regardless of the race and the country they are in. You are seeing a lot more propping up, but we just have to educate them, because when we put it in front of them, the students actually are more stressed. I mean, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't go with a hammer and say, no, you're going to be dismissed. Just put the evidence in front of them and give them a chance to explain. And sometimes they do change immediately. Um, and um, and you can have deterrence policies as early as possible. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things. I just want to get into the meat. The first one, you have other students doing their assignments. That's something that's very common in an online environment. And I've seen instances where it has been done in a different country, completely being outsourced. And I was able to track that using Hawks Learning. And I'll tell you there are other tools available for other softwares too. And I'll tell you a story of what went on. Then there is another one like the check.com, and there are other websites where all these textbook problems that you're going to assign, the solutions are already available and they sell them. Sometimes legal, sometimes it's illegal, but you have to be aware of it. So be very careful when you're using test banks that are 4 or 5 years old. I mean, that's the answer's already there. Yes, it takes a while to do your exams, but if you can change a few questions every semester, you'll have a brand new exam in 3-4 years. And so it's always good to not to reuse the material completely as it is, because these websites do have the solutions and students can easily register and get that out. And it might be even better off to tell the students that you're aware of these websites. And that kind of deters them, saying that, man, the faculty member is aware of it. Now, the thing that we are seeing most often is GroupMe and WhatsApp, where the students get together as a class, and they get back and they share the assignment solution and everything with them. The other one is I would just say is you have to be proactive. You create I'm trying to say it's a cheat proof assignment. It's nothing like a cheat proof. You try to be, I'll tell you what things that we can do. Like some of you might already know, if you can randomize your questions, randomize your numbers, and you can use random number generators in some of your Canvas, Blackboard options. And as much as possible, have multiple versions. And the one rule that I've always seen utilizing is 20% of the question. I always say 80-20. Change 20% of the questions every exam, every semester. And so the student, you're not giving an A or a B grade to the student who tried to cheat. If he or she gets a C or a D, you're still okay with it because they need to work hard for that. But you're making it hard for the A's and B's that they have to learn. They cannot go back and see an old question paper and get the answer. So that really deters and helps them. So let me show you some simple steps. First, I'm going to talk about the Hawks learning steps, and then some things that we have done over the last 2 semesters, which work. And then I'll talk about some general tools that are available. The first one is Hawks Learning. So in Hawks Learning, I don't know how many of you have used. This is one of the books that we use, Discovering Business Statistics. What I do is there is an option called time per student as an option over there. So what I generally do is every now and then, I'm not saying every day, every now and then I go to the time per student and look at their activities when they're doing the assignments. So how this Hawks Learning works is they have what we call a learn, practice, and certify. And you can look at the times for this certification. If some of these have like 10, 12 questions, and so if it's 17 minutes, 30 minutes, that means he or she really worked on it. And if they have learned and practiced, you can see this person is not copying, is not paying to someone, because every individual, whoever's paying, they have to pay by the minute. And if somebody is working on your assignments for a 1,888 minutes, he's spending a lot of money. This probably the student is actually working. So this is not a suspect student. But I'll tell you one case which we found out in the summer is this student. You can see she never learned, she never practiced, she went direct to certify. And some of these assignments are pretty difficult the first time you try. There is no way you can do it in 3 minutes, 16 seconds until you have a PhD in that thing, because these questions take a while to read and answer. And so this is a clear suspect of something went wrong. And so, like I said, it's only 2% of the cases. You can easily filter this and find out. So once you find this out, the next step, what we can do is in a website like this is go and ask in Hawks, the IP addresses of the students fulfilling this is completely recorded in the system. And we requested from the customer service support with respect to the student and the dates. And within a few minutes, we got all the IP addresses. And if you track them, they'd be like, I had people submitting it from Africa, some Asian countries, and immediately the student is actually in Canvas working from United States. And that clearly says that somebody else did the assignment. And then you have documented evidence. You don't have to say the evidence. Just go to the student first and ask him what goes on. And immediately they know something went wrong. And in my case, fortunately, I caught 2 of them. One of them absolutely agreed immediately, took the F grade that we gave and went along. Another student said, oh no. I said, okay, fine. I'm just going to transfer it to Dean of Students. But the evidence that you gathered through IP VPN masking is pretty foolproof, and you cannot do that. The students will have to face this. The one thing I found out after this is after we have done this, it's actually better off to tell the student and the class that you're keeping an eye on these. Just telling them upfront in the syllabus that don't use GroupMe, don't allow any of your other students to complete your assignment, because that we can track, and they know that we have technologies to track, and that deters them, because you don't want to do this on a regular basis. You don't want to be the cop. You're there to teach them. I mean, we are not doing the detective work. This is not what what we are trained to do and what we must do. But at some point of time, you need to have some integrity on your assignments. And once you have caught this somebody in the class or another class and letting the student that this is a particular violation, that we take it very seriously, and the entire class calms down, and they actually even come back and appreciate you. In some instances, for example, the GroupMe WhatsApp, there are quite a few students who actually come forward and say, this is something that these are being shared, please clamp down on it. So utilize that. Education is very important in terms of training that the group of students over there. Another way I found out is having some active learning exercises, that what we call experiential learning. You might have heard about this pedagogy a lot in campus classes. In online classes, it's quite difficult because you have assignments to do it on a lively manner, and whether the students are going to be online, if they're not online, if they are going to be completely remote, in sense all your assignments are remote, how to do it. I did something that that really worked very well for my graduate class. What I did was I made them do a project. So what I made them do is, after doing all these assignments, they have to get their own data, and from the modules they learned, they have to come up with an objective and they have to submit a project report. That completely changed the way they looked at the modules. They decided that they have to work and they have to understand, because the project grade is dependent on them. Because if they don't understand the topic, they cannot do the project. And so all of a sudden, the entire oh, this is an online assignment, I can just go back and click, click, click. And because you can always review your assignments, and they go back, review your wrong answer, go back and click on the right answer. That no longer works, because 15% of the grade is based on a project, and that project has no data, has no objective. They have to do it on their own. And so that changed the mentality in that grad class, and they decided that I saw a market, a 30% increase in time assignment, meaning that they started to look at the assignments in a much more different way. And also the projects serve another purpose. If they don't do well in the project, but they have like 100% grade in their assignments, that is also an indicator that something is wrong. Maybe you go back and do the random check, and you can find out if some assignments have been plagiarized, or somebody else is doing it. So these are ways that we can do in Hawks Learning. Okay. Before I talk about the other tools, I just want to make sure that you have to be consistent. You have to stress that early in the syllabus, and you be upfront saying that you're going to be very careful about it. Don't leave your course and say after 1 month, after the first exam, come back and say you found out these. You will not see a change in the behavior. The early it is, the better it is. And also, you're better off to state what happened in your document. And in your syllabus, we actually document these cases in how to put it, without any names. Obviously, FERPA policies prevent you from discussing any names. So you can tell about what went on. We had one situation in one of my colleagues' class, not in this university, where they used Respondus monitor. They saw 120 hours of video, and they found out people who were caught, and they practically debarred about 10 students. And so, and telling them upfront that we have resources to do that, that changes the behavior. So be consistent and be early, and be consistent throughout the courses. I know throughout the college might be difficult, but at least within your department, if you develop that culture and mentality among all the faculty members, because many of them think like, oh man, this is an extra work. Yes, this is definitely an extra work. But if you all stick together, then the things will change. But even if there are 20% or 30% of the folks don't care about it in the department, then you're going to have a lot of trouble in clamping down this. So this is actually a group work. And that is one reason why I decided to share some things that I did, because as an academic world, we have to be together. Otherwise, these things will start showing up. For example, the website like check.com and having all these solutions over there, it's become a norm, and we have to be aware of these things when we move forward. So here are some technologies, and I'll talk about some obvious technologies and some of my experience before we open the floor for questions and answering any of them. The first one is obviously the most popular one. I believe everybody in the participant might have had access to it or been using it. It's called the Respondus. Oh, sorry, I stopped sharing the screen. Okay, it's the Respondus lockdown. And the Respondus lockdown, there are a few advantages and disadvantages. The first one is people think in a Respondus lockdown is you can't do anything other than what's there in that question thing. You can actually give access to some websites. So let's say you have tools that you need them to use. You can actually go to your lockdown settings, and you can give that exception website. So let's say I'm just using Hawks Learning again as an example, but you can use any website. If you have any table or anything that they need to access from a website, or let's say YouTube, you want to watch some video or something like that, you can actually give this in your advanced settings, and the question can be linked in your examination and lockdown browser. And so the lockdown browser will open up another browser. So in that way, you can have some flexibility that they can use some outside information if that needs to be done. It's not like everything has to be within the question paper. So this is a useful one in Lockdown Browser. But one of the limitation in Lockdown Browser, which I feel is pretty big, is that you cannot use outside software. So if you have more like, let's say, MATLAB, or you want to do any sort of optimization, things like that, you cannot use Respondus Lockdown Browser because it shuts down everything. You can only use simple spreadsheets. And the simple spreadsheet is also very, very simple. This is an example of a simple spreadsheet. You cannot use advanced formulas and things that you would love them to do. So those cases, you cannot use a lockdown browser. You have to be much more creative of what can be done. So a lockdown browser is useful for a simple multiple choice questions with some minor outside access to tables and stuff like that. But if you have any advanced calculation, Respondus Lockdown Browser has its limitation. Then obviously, then you have your Turnitin. So if you have assignment, I think this is probably everybody knows it. If you have any written assignment or paper, you can put that paper into your Turnitin software, and that gives you index from your previous assignments, how much has been copied and stuff like that. That's useful for an essay type of stuff. But then I wanted to share some of the e-proctoring things that I've come across. I have not used any one of them. So let me be frank. And these things I have not used it, but I've heard there are universities who are using this right now. So for example, this ProctorU is being used by Penn State. I think Web Assessor is being used by Penn State. ProctorU is used by Troy University. Secure Exam and Proctor Track is used by several nursing and other institutions. So what they do is they have online access. When I say online access, is they try to provide monitoring biometric in terms of camera. They look at how people are moving around, and they have eyeball tracking. They have tracking on your mouse, the number of keystrokes. A lot of analytics goes on, but obviously all of these, when I say expensive, is they range anywhere between $15 to $20 to $150 per student. So this is an institutional investment. So if your university doesn't have access to this, then you have to be creative within the Blackboard and the learning management systems what you have. But the Respondus Monitor is one that many people prefer, but people can cheat even in Respondus Monitor. So you need to be aware. People, it's not a 360-degree view. People can be behind the screen and they can show you answers. So some of these e-proctoring have a 360 view of the examination, and so the people can't be around. So if you need to have much more advanced technologies, you can go look at them. But for the most part, this is what we can have. So those are the main things that I had in play right now. I'll open up right now for questions and other best practices that you all need to ask, or questions or anything that you want to share. I think when we initially signed up, we said about 30 minutes. So I thought I'll make the presentation for about 20 minutes, and then hopefully we can share other things. So Alex, go ahead.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. That was fantastic. And what we can open up and do now is, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put that either in the webinar chat, or we do have the Q&A that's open right now. And we'd be happy to get to any of those questions. Okay, so there is one question that came through so far, and it is about Respondus Lockdown Browser. So how much is Respondus Lockdown Browser for students, and how much does the Respondus Lockdown Browser cost per student?
So in our university, and the universities my colleagues use, the university pays upfront, so we don't charge the student. So it is built in as part of the thing, but I believe it's about $10 to $15 if I'm right. But we don't pass on it to the student, so it's not a per student fee. It comes in as a plugin as part of the Canvas browser. Obviously, UNT is a pretty big system, but other universities I've heard done the same way. They don't charge the individual. So that is why Respondus Lockdown is more popular, because they have built-in with several other university learning management solutions. So I really don't have a exact answer for it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And we had another question come in. What experience do you have in administering or proctoring an exam that needs to use an application or external software? Do you use Respondus or another platform?
This is a good question. That is one reason why what I do in those type of situations is I split them into 2 exams. So I have one exam that is completely Respondus lockdown and the students have to do it. And the version that they have to do for software, I split them and give them as a second exam. And in that one, I just say be in your Zoom call or be in so that we can see the video at the same time, but they can do the exams on their own. So in that way, at least the portion which they don't have to use the software, you have some control on integrity. And that's the best I have right now. We don't have a good, cheaper solution, if that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. We do have another one. Will the Respondus lockdown browser prevent screen sharing during a tutoring session?
Absolutely. Whenever you have a Respondus lockdown browser open up, it shuts down every communication software in the computer. You can't even have your Zoom or Microsoft Teams or even Outlook. Everything has to be shut down. And so there wouldn't be any, so that's why whenever you have a lockdown browser, it'd be just a lockdown browser. So they can't do anything other than it. But if they have another computer or they have a cell phone open, then that's an issue. And that is why we say you have to use Respondus monitor with that. In that way, you know where the student is seeing. Are they looking at your screen? Are they looking at another screen? Are they looking at your cell phone? So that's the way to deter that. But they can't do any screen sharing from that actual host system.
Okay, and then there was another question. I believe this one was about the Respondus lockdown browser as well. About are you utilizing this for homework from an ebook only, or is this applicable to any activity that you're doing?
The Respondus lockdown can be used with any learning management system. So you can create your own quizzes in your Blackboard and Canvas, and you can make it Respondus lockdown. So it is. I don't think it is tied to any ebook. And not all ebook also have Respondus lockdown. Hawks has it, but there are other ebooks that don't have Respondus lockdown. So Respondus lockdown can be utilized without that.
Okay, perfect. And also letting y'all know that with Respondus lockdown browser, you can use that for Hawks Learning within the actual web test as well. And I know that does come completely free for students there as well. So you can use that on the Hawks platform. Okay. Does Respondus have a way of detecting multiple device usage, like a separate computer or a phone?
No, that is through your Respondus monitor, and you have to do the due diligence of looking at the video and having somebody go through the video and make that detection. It is not an automatic software that finds out, oh man, there's another computer open. That is why we need to use Respondus monitor. But like I said, the monitor has its limitation. It is not a 360 view. It only shows you the front screen. So if they have a monitor, I mean, let's say some mirror, if they have advanced techniques, sorry, we can't. You have to give up on that.
Okay, and can you share some more specific examples of active learning or experiential assignments that you use to replace more traditional assessments?
So far, the one, like I said, in the grad class, we did the work of the final project. That is one that we have utilized right now. But the other experiential assignments depends on the capability of the students, right? I mean, if your students are undergraduate, then you might want to have activities which involve Kahoot or type of a question or some sort of a live session. So that you have the students right in front of you in your screens and they're doing it. Or you can allow them to use like an essay type of a thing. My courses are mostly analytical, so I'm a little bit more, it's easier to create experiential assignments and analytical courses when I say analytical courses, you can give them the data, or you can ask them to do different things with the data, which can be unique. But if you have any traditional social or other courses, it's going to be a little difficult. You have to use something like a Turnitin, I mean, after they write their own essay or something like that. But one thing I want to be frank is experiential assignments take a lot of time. So don't have too much. That'll take your load away if you're in a 10-year track where you have to do a lot more research, because experiential assignment take a while for grading. You want to be as automatic as possible.
Well, fantastic. It looks like we just hit the 12:30 mark Eastern time. So, and we really appreciate you, Dr. Narayanan. And thank you everyone for attending today. If you do have any questions following up from this meeting, please direct them to us at marketing@hawkslearning.com. You should be getting an email from us coming up shortly with a link for you to view the webinar on demand. I hope everyone has a great rest of your Monday, and I look forward to helping answer any questions that come up.
Thank you.